Hi there, welcome to Tarot Lounge Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Sagittarius energy. And like usual, we're going to do two rows. The top row I'll refer to as high vibe Sagittarius energy. The bottom row, a more worldly Sagittarius energy, because we all have free will and we have to make decisions in our life, and we can battle within ourselves. We could want to move forward in life differently, and some people are moving forward in life differently. The truth sets us free. We heal, we grow, we mature, we look at life differently, and we're ready to move forward in life differently. But some people might want to move forward in life differently, but they could be struggling within themselves because change is difficult. We have different people in our life. Some people in our life don't want us to change, don't want us to do life differently than they do life. Maybe we wouldn't hang out with them as much or stay in certain jobs or relationships, if we heal or something. And so the thing is, we all harness our Sagittarius energy differently, and high vibe Sagittarius is about looking at life as an adventure to be lived, that we come in contact with all these different people in the world to help us grow and learn lessons in life and get more clear about what our truth is and what our truth isn't. And a more worldly, shadowy Sagittarius energy can be, we like to stay in our comfort zone, or we kind of indulge our more immature nature, or we keep indulging other people in their more immature nature. Maybe because we don't want to see the truth, because that would require us to live our life differently, and we don't want to. So it's kind of interesting. We have a lot of cards not showing themselves, and the way I interpret that is, we can get in relationships with people, and there's a lot of things we don't know about each other, because we've got to get to know each other, right? So, the one card that we start out with in the bottom row is the Queen of Wands, and the feminine figures can talk about how we think and how we feel. The masculine figures in tarot can represent the action that we're taking in the world and kind of how we're presenting ourselves. And then it's also kind of interesting that the reason for the top row's reading is the sun, and I view the Queen of Wands and the sun both as Leo energy. Some people that we get in relationships with, they are harnessing a more high vibrational Sagittarius and Leo energy, two fire sign energies. Kind of more motivated and inspired to go on this adventure, willing to be out of their more egoic nature, defensive nature, immature nature. Every phase of life has its ways of living, and we live life at 15, 18, 21, 25, 35, 45. We all have to go kind of through these phases of life, and we view life differently at different times in our life. But high vibe people are inspired to want to kind of grow to their full potential, because high vibe energy is being more independent, freeing yourself from how you're manipulated by your fear and your insecurity and your pride and your ego, and you're immature, indulgent, lazy, blaming everyone else for your problems, being manipulated by other things. And so, we can be drawn and attracted to people, but one person, sometimes some of the people that we meet, are kind of more aligned with their more worldly egoic nature, which can be the reason for the bottom row's reading is the Ten of Pentacles, which can be, I just want to have a new beginning. The sun can represent new beginnings. I want to be in a relationship. I want to have a job. We all want to have a job. We all want stability and security. We all would like to be in the Ten of Pentacles, can represent long-term, stable relationships, or just long-term relationships. We all have been, probably the first 30, 40 years of our life, we can really be more aligned with our more worldly egoic nature, because we really want a lot of these things of the world, and we're sure that if we have those things of the world, we'll be happy. And we go indulge in those things of the world. We think those things are going to make us happy. It's just that some people already did go make their life about a lot of those things of the world. All the things that they thought they wanted to invest their time, energy, and effort into, that they thought would make them happy, they did. But then they could have kind of been illuminated to the truth that, I don't know, maybe it was more driven by ego or fear, because our ego nature of shadowy Leo and shadowy Sagittarius. I am motivated and inspired by all these things. I really want these things. I'm sure they'll make me happy. But then they could have gotten a lot of those things. And maybe in the Ten of Cups, the Ten of Cups is Pisces energy about what our dreams are and what we would find emotionally fulfilling. And sometimes we can go pursue a lot of things we think that'll make us happy, and then it didn't make us happy. Or we kind of realized we were kind of in a more mismatched relationship, that some of the people that we get in relationships with, maybe they are more motivated by ego or image or money or materialism or their ego or being indulged. And high vibe Leo would be a more getting out of your more worldly egoic nature, freeing yourself from your more manipulated by your more worldly, immature, codependent ego nature, to be more authentically yourself, to be more inspired by having more authentic, deep, meaningful relationships. That when we make our life more about ourself or the world, it can have all the things of the world that we thought we could have wanted, but it's not those deep, meaningful, authentic, warm, loving relationships we want. So, we have to learn these lessons in life, and we could all at one time have been, and I do think we are for like the first 30, 40 years of our life, because there is all these things of the world that we have been told if we make our life about those things, we'll be happy. Sometimes we get in jobs and professions because of the image or the status or the money, but it really isn't aligned with our authentic nature, what really drives and motivates and inspires us. But we maybe didn't go get in that career field because we didn't feel like it would have the stability or the security or the status or the image. And then later in life, people can get out of professions and careers that provided a lot of that stability and security, and then they're ready to kind of live their more authentic life and really go do what is aligned with their truth. And in high vibe energy, it's really what, based from a place of love and being more authentically myself and not letting my ego run my life, not letting the world run my life. The Ten of Pentacles can also represent kind of like foundations in our life that maybe before we were more codependent on the world, codependent on other people, not really willing to live our more authentic life and live our truth, be more independent. And so there could have been friendship groups, family groups, the world, again, professions, careers, image, status, money, all those things that kind of used to manipulate us more. But as we move forward in those things, if it's not really aligned with our truth, we don't really find it as emotionally fulfilling as we thought we would. And that's when we're kind of illuminated to the truth that I need to be willing to live my authentic life. And if I'm operating from a place of high vibe energy, is being authentic, being loving and encouraging and supportive to yourself, to others, wanting to be in a relationship with other people who have been kind of illuminated to the truth, that it is about not so much, it's finding a balance, because high vibe energy is about balance, and the Ten of Pentacles in high vibe can mean that, where in my Five of Pentacles view of life, I do want some of these things of the world, but in my Five of Pentacles, emotional nature, creative nature, inspired nature, loving nature, those things are equally as important. And it's about having a balance. And high vibe, Ten of Pentacles in Virgo energy is about doing this inner work about how we are manipulated in our fear, our insecurity, and our pride, and our ego, and our lust, and our greed, and our lazy nature, and all those things, and how all those things can manipulate us. And then we do that work within ourselves to offer ourselves. In high vibe, I view high vibe Leo as offering ourselves love and compassion and forgiveness for these lessons we've needed to learn about our more worldly egoic nature and the world and other people. And as we come in contact with all these different people in the world, and the Ten of Pentacles can be all these different lessons that we've learned, when we do feel maybe more stable and grounded and balanced within ourselves, we are ready to be more authentically ourselves. And it's hard in a way for some people to maybe be more authentically themselves just because, like just when we're younger, we want to fit in, we want people to like us. And so sometimes we can not really shine our authentic light because we don't want people to judge us or reject us. And so a lot of our life we can kind of live more from our kind of defensive to being more authentically ourselves, and we can operate more from our worldly egoic nature. And then eventually it's like, I just can't keep living my life like this, or I have learned these lessons to really be clear about what my truth is and what I stand for, what I am. I'm not willing to reject my more creative, inspired, hopeful, believing, loving nature, where maybe before some people did reject that aspect of themselves. Maybe they just hadn't learned to love and believe in themselves and offer themselves love and compassion and forgiveness to heal from that, offer it to other people in their life so that those things weren't issues that were blocking them from feeling more stable and grounded within themselves. And sometimes in our more worldly egoic nature, we can be looking outside of ourselves for other people to love us and acknowledge us and believe in us and make us feel more stable and grounded. And as we go through life, is kind of learning that I need to learn to love and believe in myself. So I get out of being in more codependent energy and looking to the world or looking to other people to provide that for me, because I'm not a child anymore and I am to learn how to be that, like my own best mother, father, coach voice in my own head, so that I can be more independent in the world and feel more stable within myself and appreciate what I bring to the table and maybe work on what I can work on within myself to learn these lessons and free myself from what manipulates me and the past and my fears and all those things, so I can be more authentically myself. And there might be people in my life who I wanted to be in a long-term relationships with, and we're hoping we would be like friends forever and kind of be on the same page forever. But we can kind of get on different pages with people, and maybe some people in our life are still, some of them could be more about themselves, some of them could be not ready to detach from an old way of viewing life, because there's a maximum of 10 in every suit. And so when we get to the 10 of Pentacles, it can be that we've kind of learned everything we needed to learn about a certain phase of life. But in order to move forward in life differently, we have to kind of get out of our more worldly egoic nature to face our fears and have hope and faith and belief in ourselves, where we let go of kind of that old stage of life, and we would come out with the Ace of Pentacles to kind of be a student of life, be willing to move forward, to go to that next phase of life. We had to go through this type of situation, like when we were 15 going to 18, 18 going to 21, 21 going to 25. And I think we're meant to go through it throughout our life. But, it can always be scary to detach from an old phase and step forward in life, put ourselves out there a little more differently, just like when we leave one job to go to another job. That's scary. But the more we have done that in our life, the less fear we have about doing it. When we get out of one relationship or friendship and we've had more experience at getting in new friendships and relationships, it becomes less scary. Some people don't have that experience that some other people have had, getting new jobs, making new friends, getting out of one relationship to get in a new relationship. And so they could have more fear of detaching. They could be more codependent. They could be more fearful. They could like to be more independent and have a new beginning, but maybe there's people in their life who try to, just like their own fear and insecurity can manipulate us. We can have people in our life that we love, that are in our family, in our friend group, or people that we're attracted to, but are they willing to be more authentic or warm or loving or be more independent and detached? At any given point in our life, we have to maybe look at, the life experience we've went through, the lessons that we've learned. Are we willing to look at some of those things and see, what are the good building blocks to take with me to go on this next phase of life? And is there anything that I'm willing to let go of right now? And underneath that, we have the justice, and love. And then we go to the Seven of Pentacles, which is from the 10 to the 7, is letting go of the Three of Pentacles. We all lived life at a phase of life that we thought was just and fair and we loved, just like we loved being like a 15-year-old once upon a time. But are we willing to quit investing in that when we've kind of been there and done that enough, where it's time for me to face my fears of detaching from an old kind of way of viewing life and living life, to be more bold and brave, to just move to the next phase of life in how I view myself, how I view the world, how I view others, how I view relationships? Or am I going to keep investing in holding on to this old foundation? Do I stay more out of fear, insecurity, and ego, living my life the way I live it? Are the people I'm in relationship with kind of more afraid of stepping out of their comfort zone? And, so the whole thing is, we've had people move on in life being more bold and brave and confident, being more comfortable in their own skin, have freed themselves from more things that manipulated them than we have. And sometimes we're the ones kind of being more bold and brave and confident and have freed ourselves from some of the things that used to manipulate us, and some other people haven't. We're all on our own journeys. We're all ready to move forward in life differently at different times. And then are we just willing to see the truth of it? Because the truth is, some people aren't ever going to want to move forward in life differently. If some people are more inspired, because Leo energy, like Sagittarius, is fire sign energy, which can be about what inspires us. Are some people more inspired by the world? Either things they want to indulge in, more about ego or image or money and materialism? Is that kind of more what drives and motivates them? Are we willing to see the truth of it? We could have wanted to invest in them, but are they unwilling to detach from a way of viewing life and A more worldly Virgo energy that people can harness would be, my long-term goal is maybe I just want to be married, or I just want to be in a relationship. But I might do it more out of fear or insecurity, or for status or ego or image. I might wear a false mask. Is the kings can kind of represent, whether they're male or female, they might present themselves as like loving people. You should, King of Cups, you should invest in a relationship with me, whether they're male or female. But I have this way of living life that there's nothing I want to let go of, or I'm codependent on something, a friend group, my original family, the world, and I'm not, or a location, and I'm not willing to detach from that or become independent of that way of living life, viewing life, or those people. And if you're someone who's like, I'm not, from the 4 to the 10, it's the 6 of Pentacles. I'm no longer kind of exchanging resources more with that old way of thinking or those people or the world. I have kind of become more independent, and I'm ready to move forward in life differently. In the Knight of Pentacles, my 2 Virgo cards. In my Virgo nature, I kind of look at these things that manipulate me, and the past was the past, but the past is over. And I am inspired to take like bold, brave, confident action to go live my more authentic life. And some other people don't harness their fire sign energy that way. They're still motivated by this certain way of living life, or viewing relationships, or again, kind of more manipulated by things or people in their life. And they could be afraid of maybe being in more deep, meaningful, authentic relationships. It could be, I feel more comfortable operating more from my ego, which the masculine cards doesn't refer to men. It can just be because the kings kind of represent how we present ourselves in the world, but the feminine figures can represent how we think and feel. So people can present themselves as, oh no, I'm willing to have a new beginning with you, but emotionally, they're defensive to change, or being more authentic, or being more authentic, more warm, more loving, going on a new adventure in Sagittarius energy. I want to be in a relationship with you, but I want to hold back from seeing the truth about issues from my past that make me want to keep repeating this old pattern. And the other people are like, but I don't want to repeat that old pattern. I've already been there and done that. It's just like, if I'm 25 and I view life differently than I did at 18, I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who still views life more like an 18-year-old. And the same thing, if I'm 45 and someone has like a 25-year-old way of viewing relationships, it's like, I've already been there and done that. I don't want to repeat that type of relationship. I'm looking to be in relationships with people who have learned some of the same lessons I have, that are willing to be more independent, have freed themselves from some of these things that manipulate them, to be in a more deep, meaningful, more authentic, being more authentically yourself, instead of letting your ego or your fear run your life. And if that's not where you're at, then I wish you peace, but I'm going to move on to go find people who are more willing. So there could be people either that you had maybe been in long-term friendships or relationships with, could be people that were in your family. But, even with people in our family, our siblings, say, and even if you have adult children, we view life differently. I like to do this, you like to do that. I think this is just and fair, you think that is just and fair. I think you might operate more from your ego, maybe be a little more manipulative, maybe a little more superficial and shallow, maybe a little selfish. Can I hang out with you? Can I know all sorts of different people in the world and at work? Yes. If it's a potential romantic relationship, do I want to move forward and get in a more involved relationship with you? No. I'm looking for people who are more on the same page as me. So, the way I would interpret these cards not showing themselves down here is that sometimes we get in relationships with people, we think we're kind of motivated and inspired by the same things, and that we're both willing to do this inner work to free ourselves from things that manipulate us, to keep working together cooperatively in a relationship, investing in truth and love and being just and fair and encouraging and loving. But there can come a time where someone, they really have to think about, that's kind of the Seven of Pentacles and Taurus energy. What is my truth? What's my philosophy of life? If I were to keep moving forward with you, is that really my truth or isn't it my truth? Am I willing to be more authentic or bold and brave and confident or detach from some things that I might need to detach from or that would benefit me? But, I'm not ready. And everybody gets ready at different times. When I'm ready to detach and I feel comfortable doing that, I will do it. And right now, I don't. So, that's when some people hold back from moving forward with you in that way because they're not at that place. And so some people in our life, just like we at different times in our life, could have moved forward in life differently, but we still had these issues we hadn't dealt with. Some people could kind of be hiding that they still kind of harness these energies in a more worldly, shadowy way. The Hierophant, the Devil, the Death card, the Ace of Wands, and the Nine of Pentacles. Taurus energy, like the Seven of Pentacles, or the Hierophant and the Seven of Pentacles, are Taurus energy, which kind of has to do with our philosophy of life, how we view ourselves, how we view the world, how we view others, what we think is just and fair in friendships, workplaces, relationships. And then we have the Devil, and the Devil can be, our philosophy of life is either, for some people, it is toxic, and they are very egotistical, very materialistic, very self-centered, very selfish, all about themselves. Shadowy Death card, shadowy Scorpio, like the Six of Cups. They might be more emotionally shallow and superficial. They might be kind of stubborn, again, maybe more caught up in the world and ego and image or themselves. But they're single. So some people were in relationships, but they really didn't want to be in relationships or marriages, because the Hierophant can represent all those things. And really they want to be single because shadowy Sagittarius is, I kind of want to go indulge in the world and maybe be more of a immature player, male or female. And I'd like to maybe be in relationships with people, but I hold back from maybe investing in more deep, meaningful relationships because maybe some people could just have fear. Well, if I were to go get in a relationship with someone, what if it ended? So I don't even want to more emotionally invest in a relationship. I just kind of want to go indulge in a relationship. And some people do get married, but they still have this idea that I can be more about myself, or I can be bossy and controlling, or I can be defensive, to really authentically, emotionally investing in a relationship. I can keep my more emotional nature buried beneath the surface. I will use my emotions and my sexuality and my resources and my charm and my looks and all those things to try to get other people to invest in me in a relationship. But their idea that they want to move forward with is harnessing more shadowy Scorpio energy, which anyone can harness. High vibe Scorpio is willing to explore the mysteries of life, go on the roller coaster. Everything isn't going to work out the way I want, but I'm an emotionally complex human being and I have a dream and I want to go experience the full spectrum of life emotionally. And I have hope and faith and belief and love. Not every relationship I get in is going to work out the way I want. But if those relationships don't work out the way I want and they end, I love and believe in myself and I'm not willing to give up my dreams. I just deal with the truth. Where did I need to heal and grow and mature myself? What about the people I was in relationships with? What wasn't I maybe seeing the truth of? Was I kind of in my ego thinking I could get in relationships with people who were more defensive or shallow or superficial or materialistic? And I just thought, of course, they're going to choose love eventually. But really, if they were motivated and inspired to be more authentic and loving from the beginning, they would have been. And we need to deal with the truth. And sometimes we had some lessons to learn. Offering people truth and love and encouragement is good. But when we see people who seem to, I don't know, not really willing to invest in being in a more deep, meaningful relationship, that should be a sign that if they're not more open and authentic and loving and giving, maybe that's not really their truth. And I should accept that truth and hold back from moving forward in a more involved relationship until they seem to, if ever, be someone, because the 4 plus the 1 pentacle would be the 5 of pentacles, where they've kind of detached from their more defensive nature, self-protective nature, stubborn nature, whatever, to be more authentic and forthcoming and loving and nurturing and motivated and inspired by love. And if they don't do that, they keep staying in the friend category. In the meantime, I am going to keep looking for people in the world who are more willing to work with me in a more authentic way, more forthcoming way. And if that's not them, then I wish them peace and I move on. But sometimes people who are more defensive to being more authentically themselves and more authentically emotionally investing themselves in a relationship, they're hoping that if they can get someone in to invest in a relationship with them, that even when you do see the truth, we'd all kind of like the things that we've invested in to work out the way that we want. And, hopeful, believing, loving people can put a lot of work and effort into trying to make a relationship work. And by the time we already get ourselves involved in the relationship, well, then they're hoping that we won't leave the relationship, even once we do see the truth that they were kind of hiding, that they have a fear of love, because the devil would be the opposite of love. And their philosophy of life in the Capricorn death card and the Scorpio, or the Capricorn devil card and the Scorpio death card, is that their philosophy of life could be more about, we should get in a relationship. The devil talks about all these things of the world. The Hierophant talks about all these different institutions of the world, like marriage, having a job. But am I going to stay in a job, a relationship, or a marriage if over time I come to realize that people are kind of shadowy and they just maybe weren't revealing that truth to me initially? Am I going when my intuition tells me That if I want the justice I deserve to be in a more relationship with someone who is being more authentic and loving and warm versus a little controlling or intimidating or abusive or egotistical or self-centered or materialistic, am I willing to listen to my intuition to become independent of them? And then we can all struggle because we are all tempted in our worldly nature, to again want the things that we've invested in to work out the way we wanted them to. But if the truth is that our truth is different, what drives and motivates us is different. And if one person is kind of more in it for wanting to be in authentic, deep, meaningful relationships, and that's not why the other person is in it, we have to work through our own worldly nature that would kind of like us to stay in it anyway. Because we don't want to have to go have a new beginning and go get a new job, a new friend, or a new relationship. But the high vibe people eventually, do this inner work within them to evaluate all of this and kind of feeling like maybe someone wasn't being truthful and honest, or feeling like someone is maybe using your loving nature to try to manipulate you, or the love that you have for them to try to manipulate you, or they're choosing to be more, instead of offering love and truth and being more just and fair, they're trying to be more stubborn or intimidating or controlling or hurtful or unkind to try to make you not love and believe in yourself to go out there to go get a different job, friendship, or relationship. And then high vibe people realize that, people who love me would choose love. And people who haven't learned that lesson yet kind of have these other ways of going about things in a relationship that I maybe don't choose to do because that's not my truth, but that's their truth. And do I want to keep staying in a relationship with someone who chooses to be more stubborn or intimidating or controlling or abusive or hurtful or unkind, hold back from me in order to get me to kind of keep indulging them in their poor behavior? I want to be in relationships with people who are more illuminated to the truth that, in shadowy Leo energy, we're either trying to manipulate and control people, high vibe energy of Leo and Sagittarius, of having learned lessons in life, that you realize that when you choose kind of some poor ways of being in a relationship, that's not the best idea. That it's being truthful and honest and authentic and loving and encouraging and warm is the way to go about it. And it's like, do I really want to stay in a relationship with someone who, in their free will, that's not what they choose? And they choose these other ways of being and acting instead. And that's when some high vibe people, some people are just now kind of doing this work within themselves, just like some of you already did, to work through their own fears and insecurities about ending a job, a friendship, or relationship, and being inspired to appreciate themselves, love themselves. They've probably been offering love and encouragement and support to the people they're in relationship with. And if those people keep not doing this work within themselves to become more independent of things that manipulate them, then they might not want you to either, because they might not, they're still more inspired by their more worldly nature. And sometimes we have to figure too that if some people are being hurtful and unkind and turning their back on us and holding back from us, it can be that they do want to become single and they're just waiting for you to see the truth and move on. And partly it could be because they know they don't want to live their life like that, and they know you want to live your life like that. But who wants to tell someone that, you're maybe more bold and brave and confident? Maybe I'm more about the world, and I don't like to admit that I'm more about the world or my ego or my image, or I am more selfish or manipulative, but I don't want to admit that. Maybe I have other people in my life who kind of manipulate and control me. You might have seen the truth of it. I don't want to talk about it because I'm still going to let them keep manipulating me, you know? So sometimes people are just being hurtful and unkind because they want you to leave. Sometimes we don't want to see the truth of that. Oh, no, I'm sure it's these other issues. And the same way, if we have communicated our truth to people and told people we want a new beginning with them or how we're moving forward, you want to come with, some of those people might be inspired and want to kind of do that. But they, again, have all these things that kind of manipulate them within themselves, other people in their life, the world at large. And they hold back from, it keeps them tipped out of balance is what the bottom row can be, that we're more tipped into our fear, our insecurity, our pride, our ego, our codependent nature. Instead of the Six of Cups can talk about getting more balanced within yourself, but that takes time, energy, and effort again to work through your fears and insecurities. And some people are like, oh, that just seems like too much work. I don't want to look at those things that I keep hidden in the dark. If I did act in a way that was more shadowy, I don't want to illuminate the truth of it. If I were to go live my more authentic life, what would people say? I might have a certain status or image in the world. It could be controlling me because the devil talks about all those things that manipulate us. I have a certain status and image in the world. If I were to go live my authentic life, what would people say? Maybe there'd be some people that would turn their back on me, wouldn't want to invest in me anymore because they would view me as, I don't know, selfish or something. The whole thing is, people who are more emotionally mature and have learned some lessons in their life know that they don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and that sometimes people are in more mismatched relationships, that other people can maybe see that, well, we can see this as a toxic relationship. We can see that this is kind of more emotionally shallow. We can see that you're being manipulated. Other people might want to stay in denial that other people see that. And so they're still caught up in their ego, like, oh my gosh, what would people say? People could be very happy for some people if they got out of certain situations. But, it's all based on kind of what we think and how we feel about ourselves. And anyway, some people did this work. Some people are doing this work to leave certain job, friendships, and relationships to get the justice they deserve. And they want to go invest in people who they think are more on the same page as them. And sometimes the more worldly, shadowy people in our life want us to go because they want to go invest in people who view life more the way they do and are motivated and inspired to live life and make their life about the things that they're motivated and inspired by, and they make their life about. So if we have communicated our truth to some people and some people aren't coming towards us to have those new beginnings, they're either moving forward in their own high vibe relationships, and we need to get out of our ego about that. There could have been someone we wanted to be in a relationship with, but we're not on the same page, and they're moving forward in their own relationships. Well, high vibe people offer love to the situation to get out of their ego, to let go of something that they wanted, to realize we're obviously not on the same page. If there's someone who I think is loving and nurturing and supportive, but they're already in that kind of relationship with someone else, well, I'm not going to stay on my ego about it. I believe that the divine has a plan for my life, and maybe that person is just going to be a good role model for me. You know, I'm going to look for people that seem to have some of those same traits and characteristics, because I have gotten in some relationships with people who didn't, and now I've been illuminated to the truth, and I no longer want to repeat this old pattern. There are consequences to my actions, and when I had to learn some lessons and I was drawn and attracted to certain people to maybe help me become more independent and appreciate my worth and value and get more balance within myself and be willing to be more authentically myself and bold and brave and confident, some of the people that could be people from my past, some of those people have already moved on. Some of those people that I might communicate would be, yeah, I do want to get to know you again. I'm glad we're on the same page now, you know? And it goes both ways, but we have to be willing to accept that whatever is the truth of where people are at any given moment in time. Now, there are some people, shadowy energy can be where people try to create this illusion again, like I said, of that they're a much more stable, grounded, balanced, loving person than they really are. Well, as high-vibe people have already went through some life experiences and learned some valuable life lessons, and they've learned when people have certain traits and characteristics and ways of being, I don't enjoy being in a relationship with them. And I am not going to keep investing in people like that, and I'm going to hold back from those people, and I'm going to keep moving forward, investing my time, energy, and effort into people who do seem to be more authentic, maybe have more self-insight, self-awareness, have learned some of the same lessons I've learned, are maybe more independent. And you are being authentic. Some other people in the world who try to manipulate people could be jealous because you freed yourself from things that still manipulate them, and you're moving on. And it's kind of like going to the next level of the video game of life. And you know, like back in the day when you played Donkey Kong or Mario Brothers, and you had to do the one level, and once you mastered that level, then you got to go to the next level of life. And there's fears about going to that next level because there'll be new challenges and obstacles. But you were willing to take the lessons you learned from this past life experience. I don't want to repeat that. I've been there, I've done that. I have learned the lessons I was meant to learn. I am ready because I've gotten balance within myself and learned how to offer myself love and compassion and forgiveness for the lessons I had to learn at that phase of life. I've offered it to other people. I'm ready to move forward to go to the next level of the video game of life. And some other people are going to have to keep repeating the same pattern because they keep wanting to hold back from the truth. They keep wanting the Six of Cups in shadow, can kind of be that they want to stay in their comfort zone, don't want to face their fears, would have to maybe be more authentic, maybe be willing to get out of their more egoic nature or defensive nature. And they're not ready to do that yet. So they're going to repeat an old pattern. They might wonder how you're doing this because you seem to be shining brightly in the world and having a new beginning. And they could think you're just somehow putting on a better show, wearing a better false mask than they are. And they don't know how you're doing it. But the thing is, you're not wearing a false mask. You have done this work within yourself, and what they don't know about you is if you previously did used to harness these energies here in a more worldly, shadowy way that made you kind of live your life the way you had lived it and viewed life the way you did it, you know, you've done this work within yourself to work through that. And what they don't know is you're now harnessing these energies in a more high vibrational way. But the thing is, when you quit harnessing these in a more shadowy way, you are willing to detach and hold back from people in your life who still harness those energies in a more worldly, shadowy way. And that's why some people won't be moving forward with you, because they are not willing to become independent of some things in their life that kind of have a hold on them. A way of viewing life, a way of living life, their fear, their insecurity, their ego, other people in their life. And they're not willing to become independent of those things and detach from the people in their life that tempt them to keep staying in that more shadowy energy. And you were willing to do that, and they're not. So what are these cards? The High Priestess in reverse, the Ace of Cups in reverse, and the Temperance card in reverse. So, we have lessons to learn. The High Priest, well, I'll bring them up here. The High Priestess talks about listening to our intuition and being more connected in with our more Cancer, Pisces, emotional water sign energy of love and self-love and hope and faith and belief in our dreams. And again, we had these lessons to learn. We were more caught up in things of the world and things we went to go indulge in that we thought for sure would make us happy, and we maybe weren't listening to our intuition in the past. And we have lessons to learn about listening to our intuition. Ace of Cups, we maybe hadn't learned to love ourselves. Temperance, Sagittarius energy, we were out of balance too, because again, I kind of think for the first 30, 40 years of our life, we're kind of more tipped in favor of our more worldly view of life because we live in the world, we're human beings, we have a lot of things that we want in the world and that we're sure will make us happy. And then as we kind of go through these life experiences, we kind of realize how, probably when I got in some of those situations, now when I think back on it, my intuition probably was kind of screaming in my ear, I don't think this is a good idea. You shouldn't do this. You should go home now. I don't think this person's on the same page as you. I don't think this is a good idea. But, we wanted what we wanted, and we wanted to go indulge in what we wanted to go indulge in. And then in the death card, it didn't quite work out the way we thought. And we did that enough times and kept repeating that pattern, and the same things kind of kept happening because we kept investing in repeating this old pattern. And then we were kind of inspired, light bulb moment. I could want other people to change, and if those people would just look at life differently, if those people would grow up and mature themselves, if those people would be more independent, if those people blah, blah, blah. And it's like, the only person I can change is me. And I'm going to quit trying to change other people. And I have to appreciate and love myself, know my worth and value, do this work within myself to get more balance within myself, love myself, take these lessons that I've learned about who and what I invest my time, energy, and effort into moving forward. And I can know a lot of different people that I can be friends with. Am I going to get in a more involved relationship with them? No. I'm only going to invest more involved with people who I think are more open, authentic, balanced, insightful, stable, grounded, loving. So you're no longer hiding from love, where before you could have been hiding from loving yourself to be more independent. And you used to maybe be very patient with people, is what the Temperance Sagittarius card can be. Oh, I'm sure one day they'll change. Oh, I'm sure one day they'll quit being more defensive. Oh, I'm sure one day they'll quit being kind of stubborn and prideful or bossy or controlling or toxic or abusive or whatever. And you're done being patient. And The Temperance card again also talks about, in our fire sign energy, there are these things of the world we want, but we also have our emotionally intuitive, loving nature. There are these things of the world I want, but I am not going to take action more out of thinking I can change other people. All I can do is offer people truth and love. If they are motivated to do this work within themselves to free themselves from what manipulates them to be more authentic and loving and work with me more cooperatively in a just and fair manner, then we could have a new beginning. But if they're not, and that's not their truth, they want to invest in other people or live their life differently, I accept the truth of it. And there's some people in my life that I had wanted to have a long-term relationship with, that I thought would be emotionally fulfilling. But as time has gone by and I've kind of accepted the truth of where everyone is at, it's like I wish them peace, but I kind of see now that we're not kind of on the same page. And you might see some of those people still being more motivated by the world, thinking that or whatever they go indulge in or make their life about. And they're still sure that that is what's going to make them happy. And if that's what they think will make them happy, they have the free will to go pursue those things and indulge in those things to see if it does make them happy. You might have already went and pursued those things, indulged in those things, and you found out it kind of, I don't know, stopped you from growing and healing and maturing yourself. And you don't want to do that anymore. So, what's coming up for people who harness some high vibe Sagittarius energy that they might not see coming? The Eight of Cups and the Page of Pentacles, because of the Six of Swords. So the Six of Swords is Aquarius energy and looking at life from a higher perspective. Before, you could have also been more caught up in the worldly dream, because Aquarius energy is also about our dreams and what our truth is at any given moment. But you've looked at life differently and not as caught up or in your ego about some of these things of the world. Why? Because it did cause you mental conflict, because the Six of Swords moves away from the Five of Swords. And again, we go pursue these things, and it's to help us get clear about our truth. And something about it didn't sit right with you, because maybe you did feel like, I feel like I'm repeating an old pattern. I feel like, I don't know, like I'm not living my more authentic life. Like I'm living my life the way people in my family tell me to live my life, or the way people in my family did live their life. And, that might have been great in a lot of ways, but, we're all unique and different. And I have my own dreams and aspirations, and I have what drives and motivates me. And my dreams are different than other people's dreams. And my idea of the dream life is different than their idea of the dream life. And I really want to live my truth. And I'm willing to become more independent. And I'm going to offer myself that cup of love to be willing to be a student of life and have that more hopeful, believing spirit to get out of my fear and my ego to go live my more authentic life. And some other people that you could have been in relationship with, they still have a lot of mental conflict about doing that. And it could just be that they're still caught up in making their life more about the world or how other people have lived their life, and instead of being their own, being inspired to step out of their comfort zone, to let love and intuition and live their own life, they're kind of repeating an old pattern. Well, this is how they lived their life and that worked out, so I'm going to follow that template and I'm going to do what they did. Well, those people were inspired to do what they were inspired to do based on their own life and things going on in their life, maybe some of those people got themselves in things they wish they hadn't gotten in. But it kind of worked out maybe in a worldly way, maybe financially, or it looked good, but were they really living their authentic life? You know, are we bold and brave enough to live our authentic life? Take the good things that we've learned. How many people, we've all been children before. And I bet when we were in those relationships, we said, boy, when I grow up, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take the good things that I like about my family, and they have their way of doing things, and I have my way of doing things, and the world changes, and we have our own dreams, and we have our own different opportunities and aspirations, and I'm going to take the good building blocks with me to build my own authentic life on it, from truth and love. And maybe some people in their past were building their life more on being more motivated by the world, or stability, or money, or something, or ego. But for some people, they're just afraid of listening to their own intuition. Like, what if it doesn't work? What if I go do that and it doesn't work out? Oh, well, you figure out what didn't work and you keep trying. It's like getting a job. I go and got one job. Nope, that wasn't it. Okay, yep, those people are toxic and bossy or whatever. I'm going to start looking for a different job, and I'm going to go try to find people who I get along with and click with more easily. Well, the same thing happens in relationships, but some people are so afraid of getting out of one relationship to go find a new relationship that they stay in unhealthy relationships, and sometimes the people that they're in a relationship with are counting on that. This is great. I've kind of trapped a more loving, encouraging person in a relationship. They're too fearful to love and believe in themselves. So basically, I get to indulge being kind of shadowy and toxic with a loving person who isn't willing to get out of it. And I think kind of out of their own, not feeling proud of themselves, I think sometimes their behavior will get worse and worse, almost trying to get you to leave because it can sicken them how they act kind of in a relationship for some of them. High vibe people are going to have a new beginning with people who are more authentic and warm and loving and encouraging, who don't hide their more authentic nature behind their ego nature. Don't want to be in relationships with people who are more wearing a false mask out of self-defensiveness. What's coming up for the shadowy people that they don't see coming? Shadowy people can keep thinking, I don't have to change, which is true, they don't have to change. But eventually they're going to keep repeating this old pattern. Why? Because of judgment. They've decided that's their truth. That's how they want to live their life. And if they find someone who is kind of on the same page as them, if they both are more materialistic focused, if they both like to not be more authentically themselves in the world and let their ego or defensive nature run their life, then they might stay in a relationship that's more out of fear and insecurity of being more independent in the world. And so they stay in relationships more out of their fear, their codependency, or their want for these things of the world. And if they find someone who's on the same page as them, then that is just and fair. What's unjust and unfair is trying to trap someone who they know isn't driven and motivated by those things as the driving factor in their life, to kind of trap a loving person in a more superficial, shallow, materialistic, or abusive relationship. Let them get in a relationship with someone who's like them. And that would be just and fair. And the people who have hope and faith and belief in their dreams, that I think there's more to life than just being in a relationship, indulging myself, or about ego or indulgence or materialism, I think those people are looking for people that are more motivated by those things also. And I think it will be illuminated who is more motivated and inspired by truth and love, and who is kind of more motivated by themselves or ego or image or immaturity and indulgence. And that's fine. We see all these different people in the world, and then other people can look at other people, and it's like, in a lot of ways they can look the same. Like, oh my gosh, it looks like judgment went in their favor. Oh my gosh, judgment looks like it went in their favor. But who seems to be motivated by truth and love, and who seems to be more for reasons other than that? And then other people too can see people in the world, and it's like, what's more aligned with their truth? And I think as the high vibe people keep moving forward in truth and love, and investing in people who are more on the same page as them, I think you will have new beginnings with people who are more on the same page as you. If we find ourselves in a more mismatched situation, are we willing to see the truth, or because of our fear of having a new beginning, we stay in a more mismatched relationship? We have the free will to repeat an old pattern for as long as we want. We are free to do what we want and manifest what we want. There's just consequences for our actions. Are we living our truth? Are we being authentic? Are we, the Six of Swords leaves behind the Five of Swords. Do we keep moving forward in our mental conflicted in our truth? Or do we do this work to get clear about our truth? But the Five of Swords can also be about being in relationships with people who want to win at all costs, and they don't care who gets hurt. And you're kind of just a pawn in their getting what they want in the world, and you're not getting what you want in the world. Do we want to win at all costs, that we're willing to have these things, that we're willing to sacrifice our truth and maybe our mental well-being to stay in relationships just for the sake of staying in a relationship, or staying in a job for the sake of having a job? I think high vibe energy wants us to have hope and faith and belief in our dreams and the divine, and that kind of creative, inspired energy. And other people in that energy are looking for people in the world who are in that energy to work with. Go put yourself out there. Go apply for different jobs. It doesn't mean just quit the job that you're in. Look for another job while you're still at your job. Now, a relationship, I would recommend not doing that. If your truth is, this is not my truth, then get out of that relationship. Do this work to be more independent, heal, and then when you're ready to go get in a new relationship, get in a new relationship. But there could be some people attracted to you, high vibe people. Some of those people might be hiding. They're kind of in a toxic type relationship, or just got themselves in one that wasn't quite aligned with their truth. And some of those people are thinking of getting out of that relationship because they realize too that the people they got in a relationship with, they harness their Scorpio energy differently, their Virgo energy, their Leo energy, their Sagittarius energy. And they also want to be in relationships with people who are more on the same page as them. And some of those people might call judgment on those relationships, and they might make an offer to some of you as you're moving forward. And as you get to know each other, if you find out you're kind of more on the same page and motivated by the same things, those would be people you move forward with. If they come communicate with you and your intuition tells you that, I think you were in a relationship with someone who was like you and you didn't like that, but that really is the type of person you are. You didn't like that they were kind of repeating their old patterns, but you still want to repeat these old patterns. I don't think you've been illuminated to the truth still yet, that you're more superficial, shallow, materialistic, self indulgent, and I'm going to move away from you because I'm listening to my intuition, and my intuition tells me is that you are still not balanced. You are still not aligned with your more loving nature. Like, or if you're a new person, I've already known people who are like you, and I'm not going to be tempted by someone who wants to indulge, but they're more immature. And like, it would look like they've moved on, looks like they've had a new beginning. But it's just by getting in a relationship with someone else that makes them look like they've healed or grown or matured themselves when they really haven't. And it's like, no, I'm going to hold back from you and I'm going to keep moving forward because I don't think we're on the same page. And so some people who are kind of more shadowy are going to reach out to some people, and some of the people that they are in relationships with, want to be in relationships with, that they think would be willing to repeat this old pattern with them, some of those people are going to move on. I've already been in relationships with people who kind of, maybe initially I didn't see the truth of it, but as time has gone by, I've seen the truth of it. That what kind of drives and motivates you is more you or ego or these things of the world. And I want to be in a relationship with someone who's more authentic. And, and there too, if some people are egotistical and unbudging and more superficial and shallow, it can be harder for them to find someone to be in a relationship with them. Because, people might have been more willing to do that when they were younger because they had that more hopeful, believing spirit. And they can still be a hopeful, believing person. I've just learned that if people are more egotistical, bossy, controlling, manipulative, I've already been in relationships with people like that, and I don't want to be in relationships with people like that anymore. So I still have my hopeful, believing spirit. I've just learned these lessons in life, and I'm no longer willing to repeat that old pattern. And then there's some people that are quite mad that other people in life have learned about people like this from other people in the world, and these people can't manipulate them because they still want to be that shadowy type of person in the world. It's like, sorry, which can be why some people, as they get older, have to keep finding younger and younger people to be in a relationship with, because some of these people do have kind of more the emotional maturity level and want to repeat some of these old patterns like they did when they were 21 or 25, and they try to get in relationships with people who are their age, older in years, like 35 and 45, and the 35 and 45 plus are like, yeah, no, I'm not repeating this old pattern. So then they got to go find someone maybe younger and younger to get in a relationship with. So there you go, Sagittarius. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.